United States halts assistance to Somalia over claims food aid was illegally seized and destroyed. Runner-up in the CAR's presidential election rejects provisional results, alleging widespread fraud. Plus, South Africa to host first China-led BRICS joint Navy exercises. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers. The United States has suspended all assistance to the government of Somalia, alleging that officials destroyed a UN World Food Programme warehouse and seized donor-funded food aid. According to the U.S. State Department statement, reports had been received about officials illegally seizing 76 tons of food intended for vulnerable Somalis, adding that the Trump administration has a zero-tolerance policy for waste, theft, and diversion of life-saving assistance. This is the latest example of the deteriorating relations between Washington and Mogadishu. Last month, Mr. Trump lashed out at Somali migrants living in the United States, telling reporters that they should go back to where they came from and that their country is no good for a reason. Although the U.S. has withdrawn from several UN organizations under the President Trump administration, it remains by far the largest contributor to the WFP, paying $2 billion in 2025, almost a third of its total funding. In the meantime, U.S. President Donald Trump has withdrawn the United States from dozens of international organizations, including several involved in global climate change efforts. The move affects 66 international bodies, nearly half of them linked to the United Nations. Among those exited is the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, a key treaty underpinning global action against climate change. The White House says the decision followed an internal review and argues the organization no longer serves American interests, describing their activities as ineffective and in some cases hostile. The administration says continued participation in the bodies amounts to a waste of taxpayer funds. President Trump has previously cut funding to multilateral institutions he opposes and has repeatedly dismissed scientific findings linking climate change to human activity. The runner-up in the Central African Republic's presidential election has rejected the provisional results announced and alleges widespread fraud. Anicet George's Doluguele claims that Sunday's election data had been manipulated by the National Elections Authority, saying that more than half of the results have not been taken into account. However, he did not offer any evidence to back his claim. Provisional results show President Faustin Touadera won 76.1% of the votes to gain a third term, and Doluguele received 14.6%. A spokesperson for President Touadera said Mr. Doluguele was playing the role of a sore loser and denies the allegations of manipulation. Final election results are expected on January 20. The major opposition coalition boycotted the vote after a referendum allowed the removal of the presidential limits, the term limits, that is. The first China-led BRICS joint naval exercise is due to start on Friday in South African waters. The theme of the drill is joint actions to ensure the safety of shipping and maritime economic activities. BRICS originally consisted of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, but expanded to include Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, and the United Arab Emirates. South Africa has not specified which countries will attend, but media reports say Russia and Iran will take part. The exercise has been held before, but never under the name of BRICS. The change will likely concern Western nations as BRICS launches its first defense cooperation. Let's get more on this. Joining us now is Channels TV correspondent in Johannesburg, Innocent Semusa. Innocent, great to see you today.
Good evening to you, colleague, and good evening to our viewers at home.
Right, so this is the first naval exercise conducted explicitly under the BRICS name. Does this mark a shift from BRICS being primarily an economic bloc towards deeper military or security cooperation?
Yeah, indeed, colleague. A very good afternoon to you once again. The week-long national naval drill is indeed titled "Exercise Will for Peace 2026." It will, of course, run from the 9th to the 16th of January 2026 in South African territorial waters, as you rightly alluded to. But we do know that the theme, as you said, it's joint action to ensure the safety of shipping and maritime economic activities. So this, in a way, it does emphasizes the cooperation on maritime security, really focusing on commercial sea lanes, shipping safety, and maritime economic operations. For lack of a better term, rather than really combat actions. So the big question, as you rightly alluded to, who will be participating? South Africa hasn't really publicly listed all participants, but like you rightly said, media is, sources suggest that the likes of China will lead nation supplying ships and assets. Russia is expected to take part. Iran also, the preparations of flotilla movements indicates that Iran's involvement in this particular operation. But of course, South Africa is the host key participant in other possible BRICS plus countries. Experts and reports say navies from other BRICS plus countries like Indonesia, Ethiopia could also participate, though not yet confirmed officially by the South African government. Joge.
Right, and the drills are China-led and reportedly include Russia and Iran, as you have just said, both under Western sanctions. How does South Africa assess the diplomatic risks of hosting such an exercise?
I think the fact that this is the first naval exercise conducted, explicitly under the BRICS banner, suggests from at least from where I'm sitting, suggests that the bloc is really testing the waters. It's expected to really deal with the issues of security coordination, moving beyond its traditional identity as an economic and developmental focused, grouping. Is you'd know that they focus on the economy and such. So, however, this does not yet mean that BRICS Joke is becoming a military alliance from where I'm sitting. This exercise really does appear to be more about really, really testing the waters, issues around strategic signaling, the demonstrating unity and relevance in a more really fragmented global order. But some are saying that this is really balancing Western-led security framework, especially NATO, without really directly confronting them. So those are some of the analysts, that they're predicting. But that said, like the move really does point to a deeper geopolitical ambitions from this bloc, as BRICS, expands and global tensions rise, economic cooperation, they realize that economic cooperation alone may no longer be sufficient to really protect shared interest, such as maritime trade routes, energy security, freedom of navigation in global south. So in short, this marks a broader scope rather than really a transformation in such exercise, becoming regular, institutionalized, for lack of a better term, Joke.
Right. Innocent, the stated aim of this exercise is protecting shipping and maritime economic activity. What specific threats are being addressed? How do these drills improve regional security in the Indian Ocean?
Yeah, so I think that's the big question. Because South Africa appears to see this as a strategic BRICS solidarity, and weighing a short-term diplomatic discomfort that is carefully calibrating its messaging to avoid being perceived as a sidelining to China. But going back to your question, Joke, the drills are aimed to really, it's not additional maritime threats, for lack of a better term, such as privacy to smuggling, terrorism to at sea, and disruptions to key shipping lanes to improve, coordination. I think these are some of the are aimed at dealing with. So it looks like it's gonna be an annual thing that we're exercising rather than really being militant, but it's more like testing the water, for lack of a better term. Like I'm in joking.
And South Africa has not officially confirmed which BRICS members are participating. Why has the government chosen not to disclose full details? And, does this affect the balance of transparency with national security?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail. Perhaps it's the balance of security. That's the reasons why they have not disclosed who is participating and who's not participating. But perhaps maybe they are still waiting for confirmation. But I think it's pretty much a little bit late for countries to confirm whether they're coming or not. But as I rightly indicated in the beginning, that such countries in the BRICS Plus will be participating with their navy, soldiers. But yeah, I don't know why they've not really, disclosed which country is coming, who's not coming, who's coming. But we do know that the three BRICS countries, that is South Africa, Russia, Brazil, India, they will indeed be part of this particular operation, but not yet disclose which countries in the BRICS Plus will be participating in this operation, Joke.
And finally, Western nations are likely to view this exercise with concern. Has South Africa received any formal or informal feedback?
The media, they have not told us. The president's spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya, has not said anything along those lines. So I guess it means that there is nothing along those lines. But if there is a letter coming from the United States or the uh, union, they'll be able to share with the media and will know the reasons behind what the concerns are. But at this point in time, I can tell you now that there hasn't been that messaging as to whether there is, concern from United States or the European Union or other regions, Joke.
Right, Innocent, thanks again.
Thank you so much, colleague.
And still to come on the program. 9th edition of the All Africa Music Awards is scheduled to hold in Lagos State, Nigeria. Please stay with us for details. Welcome back. The Venezuelan ambassador to Mali, Elio Francisco, has condemned the United States for its operations in the country, branding the strikes and capture of Nicolas Maduro as an attack on his country's sovereignty and natural resources. Speaking at a press conference at the embassy in Bamako, the ambassador said that the masks have fallen on Washington's imperial ambitions, accusing the U.S. of appropriation Venezuela has been denouncing for 25 years. The Venezuelan envoy drew parallels between Latin America and Africa's Sahel region, saying the dispute was not solely an attack on his homeland, but a challenge to all nations that assert their sovereignty and independence. Also speaking at the event, Malian politician Abubakar Siddiqui Fomba denounced the U.S. actions as an international political banditry, a violation of international law, demanding the immediate release of Maduro and his wife, Cecilia. U.S. President Donald Trump is set to meet with representatives of Chevron, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, and other domestic oil producers at the White House on Friday. The meeting, which is linked to efforts to revamp the ailing Venezuelan oil and gas sector, is already attracting global attention. In this next report, our energy correspondent examines the unfolding developments and their possible implications for oil-producing countries such as Nigeria.
The world appears to be in a big movie theater as a dominant world power, the US, and President Trump continues to stay in the center of events, grabbing global attention and shaping conversations and alignments globally.
We have a very sick neighbor. It's not a neighbor, but it's close to a neighbor, and that's Venezuela. It's very sick.
At the Southern Hemisphere scene of events, it's been weeks of tensed moments following the U.S. anti-drug campaign that reportedly have sunk over 20 vessels in strikes since September 2025. It comes to a head on Saturday when the world woke up to this tweet by President Trump himself, leaving no room for doubts nor speculations. The U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the Venezuelan leader was charged with a narcotic terrorism conspiracy and other drugs and weapons charges. Caracas declared an emergency immediately, condemned it and called it an extremely serious military aggression that also saw a widespread world condemnation, including countries from Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Chile, and others in Latin America, including the BRICS nations like Russia and China. It turns out eventually that there is an oil side to the story.
The country is a mess. It's been horribly run. The oil is just flowing at a very low level.
President Donald Trump has said Venezuela will be turning up to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. after a military operation to remove President Nicolas Maduro from power. That oil is worth $2.8 billion and will be sold at its market price, according to the U.S. president, adding that he would control the money raised and use it to benefit the people of Venezuela and the U.S. Now, if you compare notes, there might be implications for regions, producing countries, and petrodollar dependent countries like Nigeria. Should we be worried?
Nigeria should do everything within its power to guard its national asset jealously, especially its crude assets, right? Develop it and use the proceeds to develop the country. So it is important for Nigeria to understand that this is a national security issue, ramp up production, do the needful with regards to production, strategic reserve, and meeting local demand. We don't want to do anything that will make us fall to the level of Venezuela at the moment. And kudos to the government, because as at about a year ago, Nigeria was below 20 rigs operational.
Low prices if outcomes tank, or high prices, either way, there is a place in history for Nigeria. Venezuela's daily crude output plummeted from about 4 million barrels per day in the late 1990s to under 1 million barrels per day today, a decline in the order of 70 to 80% for a country with the world's largest reserves of over 300 billion barrels of oil, accounting for 17% of world's proven oil reserves. It's Venezuela today. Potential next victims can wake up and smell the coffee or become another statistics. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Ghana's former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been detained by U.S. authorities. His lawyer says that the detention relates to the status of his stay in the U.S., but however expresses confidence that the matter will be resolved quickly. Ofori-Atta, who is in the United States for medical treatment, is wanted in Ghana on suspicion of corruption. He was declared a fugitive in February last year and formally charged in November. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement database lists him as being held at a detention facility in the state of Virginia. Friata served as Ghana's finance minister from 2017 to 2024 under former President Nana Akufo-Addo. During his tenure, he led controversial tax reforms and played a central role in negotiations with the International Monetary Fund. Nigeria has reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening economic ties with Spain, describing the country as a strategic partner and a key bridge between Africa and Europe. The message was delivered by Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tuga during an engagement with Spain's main business confederation. Nigeria said its economy is stabilizing through reforms, diversification, and stronger macroeconomic coordination, with growth increasingly driven by non-oil sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, services, and technology. Officials highlighted Nigeria's appeal as Africa's largest market and a gateway to a 1.3 billion person continental market under the AfCFTA. Priority areas for Spanish investment include energy and gas, agriculture and agro-processing, infrastructure, technology, and business process outsourcing. Nigeria also stressed support for legal labor mobility and assured investors of improved business conditions, regulatory transparency, and long-term partnership opportunities. The Lagos State government has reaffirmed its commitment to leveraging arts, culture, and creativity as key drivers of economic growth and global engagement as it announced the 9th edition of the All Africa Music Awards scheduled to hold in the state.
The All Africa Music Awards has over the years grown into one of the most influential platforms for recognizing African musical excellence, fostering cross-cultural collaboration, and promoting Africa's creative economy on the global stage. Lagos State is proud to continue its support for initiatives that elevate African talent and position culture as a driver of development. On behalf of the government and the people of Lagos State, I wish to acknowledge and appreciate our strategic partners, particularly the British High Commission, for their sustained collaboration and commitment to cultural exchange and creative diplomacy. This type of partnership reinforces our shared vision of using arts and culture as tools for international engagement and innovation. This edition of AFRIMA will bring together artists, producers, industry leaders, policymakers, and creative entrepreneurs from across Africa and beyond. It will also underscore the growing relevance of the creative sector as a contributor to employment, tourism, youth empowerment, and global African visibility.
The All African Music Awards, in partnership with the African Union Commission, is the longest and the biggest running musical platform that promotes, develop, and showcase African talent and music to the rest of the world for global competitiveness. It's a moving music platform. The last edition was held in Dakar, Senegal, hosted by President Macky Sall and the Premier of Ghana. The African Union deemed me fit, after sober deliberation, to give the hosting right to the beautiful city of Lagos for this edition. And with the powerful understanding of true development by His Excellency, Governor Sanwo-Olu, he generously accepted to host the 9th edition of AFRIMA on behalf of the Lagos State. With that in mind, they are a big partner on this project. The idea is to showcase, one, the talent of African music. Number two, showcase the capacity of the continent itself to the rest of the world.
And finally, did you know that Lake Volta, the world's largest artificial reservoir by surface area created by the Akosombo Dam on the Volta River, it covers over 8,500 square kilometers and serving crucial roles in hydroelectric power, fishing, and transportation. It was formed in the mid-1960s with the construction of the Akosombo Dam. That's Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.